So are you saying that potentially our society has a full-on antisocial, psychotic design, specifically when you look at like banks giving credit cards to poor people with an interest rate at 30%? Is that psychopathic?
I see it as there's a continuum from Jesus, who's very altruistic over here, to the full-blown psychopath, whoever it is, Ted Kaczynski or whoever it is. And there's a continuum.
Warning, this podcast is for entertainment only and not intended for medical purposes.
And that the people in power who are manipulating blah, 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 they're not fully psychopathic, but they're just selfish. And they're playing the capitalistic game according to the rules. And the really smart ones realize you can play within the rules and not go to prison and get fucking filthy rich by having credit cards, this, that, and the other, or by lobbying Congress, or even the government. We talk about corporations being evil, but even in the government, it's like by like the Fed and the Treasury, by printing a bunch of money, and like all the fucked up games where rich people make themselves get richer. You can do that within the rules. The really smart people are doing that.
Okay, we all know that's happening now. We didn't know that back in 2001. Like, it wasn't so obvious. Now it's so obvious how much it's systemic. Systems of governance. But like that return to Marxist views might be a result of this, what looks like psychopathic corporations coming to just like take all our shit and enslave us into like screen impoverishment. Like
totally. That's for sure true. But okay, so there's like the corporate corruption takeover.
Yeah.
And then you're saying there's this like left-wing Marxist counter movement. But now that thing has gotten all twisted and fucked up and corrupted too, with the whole like woke religion and their whole nutty thing. And then somewhat more associated with that is the governmental corruption and how the government is corrupted. And it's weirdly corrupted, a mix of like being owned by corporate money and also being somehow getting mixed up in this left-wing Marxist woke corruption. It's like, where does the government exist in the fucked up, corrupt confusion?
I think that's amazing that this went from like an individual diagnosis of antisocial personality disorder to a potential like global antisocial phenomenon. A systemic, which I am totally pro-capitalist myself.
Yeah.
Right? Until we look at it through this lens. And then I'm just like, oh my God, this is a horrible situation where it's only, like, it's okay because you and I are winning.
Right, totally.
But then it's like are we winning because we tilt psychopathic? Like, or are we winning just because we're smart enough to play the game? Right? Like, can you be smart enough to play the game and not have antisocial tendencies?
Okay, yes. Kind of like we were talking about earlier today in our psychedelic thing. I think there's a continuum. And I think on one side, there's like selfishness and individualism. And I'm going to look out for number one. And then on the other side, there's altruism and collectivism. And I want to like help and support and have everyone benefit. Okay, so there's that balance. And I think there needs to be an integration and a balance of those two.
Yeah.
And I think that if you lose this side and you just go into the selfish thing and you go too far, that becomes narcissistic or that becomes psychopathic. And if you lose the individualism and you go too far on the collectivist thing, that becomes like a weird communal, communist, hippie, dysfunctional, whatever that is over there.
Yeah.
And so ideally, you need to have a balance, and you even need to have a strong sense of individualistic health and assertion and communal collective responsibility. You need to have a strong sense of those. And so I think ideally, and let's hope that you and I are an example of this, I don't want to be too confident in ourselves, is that we have a relatively strong sense of both, so we can succeed fairly well in the capitalist game, but we can have some level of responsibility and ethics for love your neighbor, so we don't have to go too far into the psychopathic thing.
I think that was a great distinction of having both, but I don't ever hear anyone say what you just said. I don't think
it seems like a simple concept to me. I don't know why fucking people don't get it. And then let's look at like famous people. Like I feel like Warren Buffett is probably a good example. He clearly has a lot of this healthy individualist drive to achieve.
Yeah.
But I think he has quite a bit of this responsibility thing too. So he's the example of a healthy, mature, ethical, successful capitalist.
Do you think we're on our way? As a collective?
Yeah, I think we are. I want to be hopeful. It's, things, it's kind of like the stock market goes up and down, but I think we're trending positive. At least I want to, I'm just going to be a believer,
I'm optimistic too. Yeah.
We're kind of maybe trending down a little, but shit needs to fall apart to sort of get rebuilt in a better way. So we're maybe kind of falling apart here for the next handful of years, but whatever.
Yeah.